Good morning. Today's agenda for the webinar is going to be talking about the basic functionality and feel of Springboard. We're going to cover a few basic topics such as how to raise a job and advertise to different careers page. And then from the candidate perspective, we're going to see how a candidate can apply for a job, and then how we can interact for other modules such as interview scheduler and about pre-screening questions and so also moving forward, we're also going to talk about from the recruiter's perspective about processing and talking about tips and tricks across the line. If you have any questions, I'd like everyone to note down till the end, and once we finish the webinar, I'm happy to answer all the questions in one time. Okay, thank you. All right, so the moment you log into the screen, you'll be landing to your dashboard page. Now, the dashboard page is where you can customize and create small dashboards. To do so, there is a cogwheel on your right top corner, allows you to select from the pre-selected dashboard. In this case, we have already set up to my jobs, my interviews, and the other most common which is being used is talent folders. On the left top corner, you can see a magnifying glass which allows you to quick search. That magnifying search is called quick search, allows you to quickly search into database of Springboard of your jobs. You can search through requisition number or the title or even the candidate name. You can also refine by searching by the candidate phone number in case if you have. Moving further, there's a quick create candidate icon that allows you to quickly create candidate with few information, so that way you don't have to go to other screen to do so. So let's say if you are in middle of creating an advertisement and you get a call of a candidate you think that's really a good candidate for a job, you can quickly add into the system at any point. The next icon is for notification, allows you to set up notification for Springboard. A good example will be, let's say, a job which is really hard to place a candidate or find a candidate. You can basically set up a notification for a specific job, and then you can say if any application is received, you can basically get notified in email or through the Springboard. And that is one of the good examples. You can definitely customize or add more notification based on forms to be completed, or if any email is being triggered to candidate, then you can notify yourself. The other icon is for creating a new session that allows you to basically multiple sessions on the same browser tab. So that in case if you're working on one page and you realize that I need to go back and check some other details, you can basically click on that icon to basically create a new session on your browser that allows you to multitask at the same time. Again, with the dashboards, you can change or customize the way it's been aligned. You can drag and drop to say, okay, move the following folder dashboard at the top. Also, you can change the layout by clicking on the cogwheel and selecting change layout. You can decide what layout you're after, and that way you can customize as per your need. On your left side corner, all the icons are basically tabs to go to the different pages. Jobs is the one which we're going to discuss moving further, is where we can create new job or view or anything related to job will be under that tab. So with the advertisement, where we can create ads on view or search any ads based on other recruiters. With the candidates tab, it allows you to search candidate or create candidate. We do have functionality where you can upload candidates through spreadsheet, and then it will create basically bulk create candidate. We do have steps already been mentioned into our help center. Talent folder is where we can create some static pipeline, more like a talent pipeline for future roles or an existing roles. Interview tab allows you to select or create any interviews for upcoming positions. Again, we're going to talk about in future sessions in detail about interviews tab and many more functionalities. Task is where basically you can create a task for yourself, and it's going to be simple around by selecting what kind of task it is, and it will be something you can put it on your dashboard, so that way you can notify it for yourself. Moving further, we're going to create a job to start with. For creating a job, we do have two options. One is basically selecting from the business unit and the title to start with, or you can basically copy an existing job. There might be a scenario where, let's say, implementation consultant was placed 6 months ago, and there's another vacancy came up, and its team is growing, and you already got all the information you have or required for the requisition. So in that case, you just had to select the existing requisition. And in this case, I'm selecting Senior Project Manager, for example, and press copy. That will automatically populate all information from the existing job. The other way to do it is basically from scratch. Let's say we know the business unit where it's required. I'm going to select, and then after, I'm going to just give the title, say, and then press create. Once that's done, now this is for our demo purpose, therefore there's no mandatory fields which has been there, but you can basically have to enter all information which is relevant and which are mandatory in your case, and then press update at the bottom of the page. The other most important thing is to have a candidate activity. The candidate activities is basically a workflow which allows you to, which defines the business process. And we'll talk about that. So we can predefine or select it as a default every time a job has been created. Or if you wish to change at any time, you can click on the reset icon and then select from the existing workflow and then press assign workflow. Once that's done, the next important thing is to change the status from draft to approve. And that will be done here. Once the status has been approved, a recruiter can decide to advertise the job on different external or internal careers page. To do so, once it's been approved, you will see a new button coming on the top, which is going to be called Create Ad. Once you click on Create Ad, it auto-populates all information. And then you can basically enter a new job number if you need to, select a location for the field, and position job description. At the bottom of the page of creating an ad, you got sourcing channels. The sourcing channels are basically different platforms for you to advertise the job. It can be careers page, your intranet careers page, Seek, or Indeed in most of the cases. And if it's an New Zealand client, they also got different careers page, which is called Trade Me. Once that's been finalized, all you need to do is submit new job. And it looks like I forgot to select any mandatory field. Yep, an ad was been created. Let's go back to the requisition screen. So let's talk about different tabs available for you guys. At the top, you can see different tabs on the requisition screen. The first one, job notes, is basically talking about all the notes associated with that particular requisition. So in this case, if I click on it, it will tell you system events, like when the requisition was created, what workflow was assigned. It also tells you whether this workflow was assigned by a user or was a default workflow attached to a job at any point. Also a timestamp. It also tells you the change of status. So let's say when a requisition was created, as I said earlier, it always created as a draft status, and the most important stage is to change the requisition to approved when you're ready to advertise. So in that case, we can come and check what status it is. The other tab is basically applying a manual application, which in this case will be filling up the form on behalf of a candidate, and then it just goes straight into the requisitions. Search tab is a place where we can talk about the candidate processing, and we will come across later to discuss more about when a candidate comes into this place. Add suppliers. So if you have any agencies where you wish to allow agencies to provide candidates, you can basically attach an agency to the Springboard, and then they will receive an email where they can access Springboard, but only to the job which has been assigned to them. And that way they can attach candidates, and it will get notified once it comes into Recruiter's backend. So that's all on the job side. Now let's say other pages on the jobs. The other one, we got a few other tabs, which is My Jobs and All Jobs. My Jobs basically brings up all the jobs which is assigned to one particular recruiter, whereas All Jobs will show all the jobs regardless of what recruiter it's been assigned to. Now we can control based on user permission. Even if a user clicks on all jobs, and if that user doesn't has user permission, they will not be able to see others' job. In this case, will be only able to see 3 jobs which has been created or been assigned to the recruiter. You can customize the grid, what you're seeing right now on the screen. So that way, if you wish to move the recruiter at the top, you can do that. Whereas you don't want to have the location field, you can basically edit the grid configuration by clicking on the cogwheel and then unticking the location field. That way it will remove from your settings. The other thing I'd like to tell you is your settings is based per user. Therefore, if I decided to keep job reference to be second from the second column from the first, the moment I log out and come back again, the system knows that I'm expecting job reference to be second column. The other thing I would like to show is how we can filter down jobs. So there will be another magnifying glass which is called Job Search on your right top corner, and that allows you to basically filter down for more jobs. So let's say if I'm looking only for the jobs which is filled, and for particular recruiter, I can select in this case, and then I can say press search. It should bring the results. Now, just because I don't have any filled jobs, therefore the results are empty. However, if you wish to save the following filter for future use, you can click on Save Searches and click on Save the Search and give a name. You can also allow that to be visible to others, so that way as an admin can control filters, and that way it can be shared to all the users. Right now, we already talked about how we created an advertisement. So let's go back and see how it looks like from the candidate perspective. Once an ad has been created, it goes to the careers page, what all the sourcing channels you selected. Sourcing channels are nothing but all the careers page or maybe other job scrappers, which is already been integrated with Springboard. In this case, we have selected an external careers page. So this is from the candidate's perspective. All they need to do is register if they're new, or click on login, fill up details, and press login. They can click on different tabs, say view all jobs, and search for jobs which they're after. In this case, let's click on Senior Project Manager. For the candidate, all they need to do is click on apply for this job. They will have an application form to be filled. That application form can be customized as per the need. Therefore, all the questions, there will be some mandatory questions which we need for the system. However, rest all questions can be customized as per the client requirement. Just quickly select and press next. We do have option to add pre-screening questions, which is basically adding some dynamic questions depending on the role to be asked to the candidate. Now, these are extra questions from part of your application form. Therefore, you can decide what questions you need to ask based on the role to different candidates. Now, we do have different, going to be a next session called Basic Recruiter Training Session 2, which will be talking in depth about questionnaire, interviews, and hiring manager tools, and even including the offer processing. Just quickly fill up the form. Once an application has been filled, candidate receives an email that thanks for applying for the job, which is automatic. Let's go back and refresh the grid and click on jobs. And let's go and discuss about candidate processing. Right now, what you're seeing is the applications grid. Once a candidate has applied, it will come within the job. In your left side column, all you can see is basically folders, which are your business process, or in other terms, it's a recruitment process. Anytime candidate applies, comes into the first folder, it can be customized as per the need. Also, any folder which looks green in color is basically having some automation rules behind the scene, whereas any folder which is blue is the standard static folders. You can customize the grid again as per what we did for the requisitions grid. To do so, you click on the cogwheel icon and select what column you wish to see and what column you don't wish to see on your screen. That way, once we click on tick, it goes off from your screen. And it stays based for the profile. Therefore, every customization you do on your grid is for your profile rather than affecting any other users. The other going to be talking about how to review the application. On your right top corner, you got a candidate review button, or the other best way is to double click on the candidate name and comes into the review page. If you had a plot, let's say resume is not there, but all the tabs basically talking about resume and position the candidate's CV if that's been attached. Profile tab will populate all the information such as candidate details, where they have applied from, and their job history, which can be customized when a candidate is creating a profile in the external careers page. Application form tab will be showing the application form which has been filled by the candidate. Now, remember, we also attached a questionnaire, which is basically asking for more information. Therefore, it's also part of the application form. Communication tab is going to hold all the emails or any logs which is raised against the candidate. Forms tab is talking about Springboard forms, which are dynamic forms which you can assign or create against a candidate, or you can request candidate to complete, and which will be visible on the Forms tab. So with the activity is where else the candidate is sitting right now, and documents, which will be basically showing all list of documents. Experience tab is basically parsing up data from their resume and basically creating a graph. We do got a better functionality called Sovereign. It's parsing candidates' resume and reading position description and try to rate the candidates. I can give you a snippet quickly of how the candidate is rated. Like once you click recommended by Springboard, it gives you the list of candidates which has been recommended, and we'll be basically having a score against each candidate which matches to the position description attached. And that way you can decide whether do you want to attach this candidate to the job. And if you say yes, the candidate comes into the screening folder and email will be triggered to notify a candidate as well. So that's a good example for how Springboard can recommend from existing candidates, and that way you can before advertising, you can definitely try to search within Springboard and see if you can go reach out passively rather than actively advertise on external pages. To again, to process candidates to different steps, let's say once a recruiter has reviewed the candidate resume, they can move to the different steps by drag and drop, or they can right click on the candidate and select from the action menu, which is called change status, and select what status the candidate has to be moved into. Once you right click on the candidate, you get all the action menus available for the recruiter to action, which is also basically sending emails or creating any interview slots for the candidate or adding more information to the application form. So that way, all you need to do is right click on the candidate and select. In this case, we're just gonna say, let's send an email to the selected candidate. It auto-populates all the information from the templates. Template something you can configure from the app comes in the administration, which is also going to be something we're going to talk in future training. Once you select it, all you need to do is send email. Email goes out to the candidate, and also something you can see into the communication tab. Now, as you can see, there is a rule already sitting behind the folder. To view the rule, right-click on the folder and click View Rule and check what rule it does. It says Create Phone Screen Form. Therefore, if you wish to edit or view more about the rule, you can click on Edit, and if you wish to delete, you can press on the bin icon to delete the existing rule. Let's say we edit and check what's the action. So it's basically creating a Springboard form, and that allows you to fill up against the candidate. All the forms will be sitting in the Forms tab. So that way, let's say you got a pre-screening questions to be asked in the phone interview. So that way, recruiter can log against a candidate and it's being saved in a structured manner. And that way, recruiter don't have to write it down on a Word document or so. That's something we can automate through the rules engine. Let's say a candidate had passed a phone screening interview and decided to go to the interviews tab. All they need to do is drag and drop to the interviews tab and right click on the folder and select manage interviews and click create new interview. So that way you can just decide to select the locations from existing one if you know the room number, or keep it empty as it's not mandatory. Select the start date and time. So let's say it's going to be 1 o'clock. And you can add the panel members going to attend and the status. Now for the interviews, we have two different ways. The one which we're showing is basically creating a single interview against a candidate. The other one which we're going to talk about is going to be called scheduling interviews in bulk. Now, we're going to talk in detail in future training, and that will be basically showing how to create bulk interviews. So in this case, this was more about creating a single interview. The other thing is to create bulk interviews, which I've already done in this case. Therefore, I'm going to show you how candidate has to action on their end. Once a candidate is moved into interview step, they will receive an email notifying that they have been selected for the further interview. That can be for the assessment center or group discussion. And that way, all they need to do is log into the careers page. There will be a link in the email which takes back straight to the careers page. And they will be seeing a section after login called interview scheduler. All they need to do is click on that. And then they will be given different options to select from the timing. So that way I can select, let's say, yeah, for a candidate, Monday, 9 a.m. suits perfect. I click on book and system will log that against it. We also have feature where candidate can unbook by themselves. Therefore, if you think it's not necessary, we can configure from our end. Once a candidate has selected an interview, in the grid, you can see interview details has populated against that. Let's say a panel member comes and say, I'm not available for that time slot. A recruiter can basically delete the selected time slot, and email will be sent out again to the candidate says you have been removed from the slot. Please go back to the careers page and select different time slots from the available. Or, as we know, recruiter can, if it's only for one candidate, then recruiter can select a time slot by themselves by clicking on create new interview slots. The other top, we're going to move the candidate to the references where we can automate sending out third-party reference check. We do have integration with Xref, which does the reference check and comes back within the Springboard so they can see the reports in Springboard. And let's say once the reference has been done, candidate can move the candidate to the offer made, and then emails can go out to different panel members to confirm the salary range. And once that's been confirmed, they can create an offer letter and move it to the employed stage. So that was basically walkthrough across the folder and rules engine and how and what it can do. We also talk about, let's say, if you wish to generate a form against a candidate, you can right-click on the candidate and say, Manage Candidate Records, and click Generate Forms. You can select from the existing templates if it's there, and that way, let's say it's a new starter form, you're going to let the candidate fill. You can decide whether you want to show in the email, or you can also post the form into the careers page. So that way they will be logging back to the careers page, and we keep within the system. Therefore, we try to interact more with the candidate to go to the careers page, check what other jobs they have, and do all the actions through that. So that way they're engaged in the right way. And generate, the form will be generated. They can view the forms again from the Forms tab. Now, tips and tricks. The other one, which is really good one, is let's say you are in a job and you decided that there's a candidate which is I got contacted over the phone, and you wish to add directly to the following requisition. All they need to do is click on Quick Candidate and click Add Candidate quickly. I'm gonna select a document. You can click on Prefill from Resume, which should basically read the resume and complete the form, which again, I can see that few information has been completed, but that's a test resume, therefore it wouldn't have got all information. But the main concern is at the bottom, it shows that the following candidate will automatically get created within this job. If you wish to change, yes, there's an option too. So click on that click to change icon, and you can decide for a different job if that's the case. And you can also decide whether it has to go to a different step. Let's say, yep, I already contacted the candidate, it's all good for the interview step directly, therefore you can move the candidate straight to the interview. Therefore you can see now there's another candidate created into the interview step.